I'm Randy Clyde, the principal of Rodriguez Prep Academy. I've been principal for the last 2 years, and I previously had served at Rodriguez as the vice principal for a year and a half. So one teacher sample, I have multiple examples across campus of teachers improving throughout this process. This teacher I would consider like one of my middle performers. Great teacher, a lot of potential for growth, but's been teaching for quite a few years, so influence and change in behavior is a bit challenging. And so this process actually has worked well with her because it's not a directive on things she should change, but it's the reflective question has really led her to start changing her practice. I had observed her in August, once in November, and then another time in January, along with other short visits that I had made, but for the actual collaborative coaching process, this was like a little span of time. In the original observations, I had seen, not only in those long visits, but even my short visits, very much a traditional teaching style of always being direct instruction, which is a great approach, but what was minimized in that approach was the actual guided, or I should say the independent practice piece with student collaboration. So there was independent practice, but it was literally independent practice. It was a quiet math classroom. There wasn't a lot of student discourse, and she's getting results. So it's kind of how do you get a teacher to better their practice if the results are showing that it's working. And so the conversation went to, in the feedback process, identifying that what could have made the lesson more effective is increasing the amount of time students have to think about a problem. This was a math class in this case. And how can we best do that is by having students have conversations with each other about how they will approach a problem. And so she would provide students the opportunity to have conversations, but students were not taking advantage of those opportunities. We had conversations, was it because of a fear of being wrong with the math problems, that they have to get the right answer? Was it fear of just wanting to work, was it just wanting to work alone? So we had conversations of how she could actually have these conversations take place. So we talked about having structured collaborative conversations, so using a structured piece or approach to have these conversations. And so when I did eventually get into the classroom again in January, it was amazing. It was almost like night and day. It was when she had the students having collaborative conversations before they addressed the problem. She didn't change her whole teaching methodology. She was still using the direct instruction model. But what I saw was when it was time for them to practice a problem independently, she broke it down and had them be very reflective on certain aspects, like how are you going to approach this problem? And then had the students share with each other. And every student was sharing because she provided structured time. You have 2 minutes to share and you need to be prepared. So she really was reflective on her practice. Because I included her in the conversation of how we can make this work, I saw a change in behavior. And so what I made sure to do was when we had our feedback session was to really praise her and acknowledge her for, what we had seen in the previous lessons, and how she was able to incorporate that change in this new lesson, and not forgetting still at that moment to how could this lesson still have been made more effective. And so it was, a really powerful moment to kind of see, an actual change in teacher behavior that was just so explicit. You could actually see it with one practice in particular. And so there's multiple examples that I have throughout the campus of teachers improving their practice. And this was just one example of a math teacher who was more intentional about how they were using the various elements of their planning to get higher quality student